Good morning, viewers. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo yesterday held a meeting with 8 state governors across the 6 geopolitical zones to coordinate efforts geared towards mitigating the risk of the COVID-19 pandemic. The meeting also had in attendance the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and health commissioners in the respective states. Vice President Osinbajo is also the chairman of the Economic Sustainability Committee that is working on modalities to provide succor to Nigerians amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. At the moment, Nigeria has 987 confirmed COVID-19 cases with 197 recoveries and 31 deaths. Now let's get on to our conversation today, the Economy and Politics show, part of our Economics Discuss. We are looking today at COVID-19 and the Nigerian insurance industry. What are the implications for the insurance industry amidst this pandemic? With me to discuss this is Mr. Ekerete Ola Gam-Ikon, a management consultant with specialization in insurance and entrepreneurship. Nice to have you and good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. And with me in the studio is my special co-guest anchor, the veteran and the very, very respectable financial analyst and financial journalist, Mr. Bosun Mofaye, CEO Frontier Africa Reports.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. And good morning. It's good to have you on the program, sir.
And it's a Friday, so it's...
Yes, a Friday. I think we can do it. Thank God it's Friday.
Yes, even if virtual,
despite the pandemic,
yes. Yes, we can. So how is it going? It's lockdown phase 2, day 11. Mr. Ekerete, how's the experience been?
Well, I wish there was something like lockdown insurance.
Okay, lockdown insurance. Okay, very interesting.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. So let's get down to the conversation. We know that in the insurance industry in Nigeria, the major activity for this year was the recapitalization, which the National Insurance Commission, the key regulator, has been driving. Let's just take a recap of the process. For life insurance companies, the capitalization expectation is that they will hit 8 billion naira from the initial 2 billion naira. For the general insurance, they will hit 10 billion naira from 3 billion naira. And for the composite insurance, they will hit 18 billion naira from 5 billion naira. And finally, the reinsurance will get 20 billion naira in terms of capitalization from the initial 10 billion naira. So, Mr. Ekerete, this of course was designed to reposition the Nigerian insurance industry to meet up with demands and be competitive in the global market. Will COVID-19 pandemic adversely affect this whole plan? What should we be expecting concerning this strategy?
Okay, so the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly affected everything, and the insurance recapitalization is not left out. However, we need to remember that the reason for the recapitalization was to produce financially stronger insurance companies that can retain more risk locally and also be able to honor claims obligations. In my own view, we already have some companies that are doing that right now. And so it might not be that every insurance company will be able to meet up the new capital base that NICOM has requested, but certainly there are companies that have met it, and you will notice that business is going on, which means insurance buyers are able to know without NICOM announcing which companies to do business with, and that's the way it should be really, because some of us have argued that recapitalization is not the only thing that keeps the business going, So besides recapitalization, there are other issues. How are the insurance companies performing in other areas? And I'm sure in the course of this discussion, we'll talk about some of those things. So for me, I would think, that to avoid any misgivings, there's been some indication that NICOM may want to extend the deadline from December. To my mind, I think it's time to close it and announce the companies that have met it. The companies that have not met it, could then be captured under what NICOM itself had proposed sometime in the past, where you have a tier-based solvency managing capital. And it's the right time to do it, because if we don't do that, we'll continue to shift the dates, and The only reason why we're shifting it is because we want insurance companies to meet capitalization. But how about the customers and the investors? How long are they going to continue to wait? So I do think these are the steps that we should consider now, so that we can rest this whole issue of capitalization and have companies and all the stakeholders. This is what needs to be done. But having said that, the other issue that NICOM needs to deal with very quickly is that of claims. And one of the things I have suggested recently is that NICOM can, as other African regulators have done, set up what we call policyholders protection fund, so that insurance companies that are not able to pay their claims, could have NICOM pay the claims, and then reconcile with the insurance companies, rather than keep customers, going back and forth to insurance companies, waiting for when they can pay claims. And then some people are waiting for over 2 years, just waiting for claims to be paid, which is not good for the business and it's not good for the industry. So yes, the capitalization is good to go. However, in my own opinion, the companies are already out there for us to see which ones can go and which ones can't go.
Okay, I hear you very well about your thoughts around the recapitalization and, of course, the issues around claims, because that's very important for the industry at this point, that credibility, particularly to those that are the consumers. And as we continue, we'll still look at that. But let's look at the palliatives at this point from some insurance companies around the General Motor Insurance. We've seen from companies like Leadway and WAPIC. Do we expect to see more from other insurance companies? Should it be something that NICOM and even the NIA, the Nigerian Insurance Association, should really rally that? Yes, companies should look at how they can support consumers in this period.
Oh, absolutely. In the way we work in the insurance industry, it's always a group behavior. One person does it, and you find other people doing it, which is good. I mean, it's good that we are even seeing this. And I'm happy that in one of my write-ups I had proposed that insurance companies should actually, use this time to respond to customers in this manner. So I'm happy that I'm seeing this. But more than this, maybe the regulator should also think at this time of possibly, suspending the no premium, no cover, regulation regime. And let's see how we can have more customers come in. At this time, people are not spending money on things like insurance, but they also need to get cover. Can they be given cover for 3 months credit and all those kind of things, so that people can feel the sense that insurance is also participating in this whole palliative and stimulus program that we are seeing.
So I hear you very well. You first talked about the need for a policyholders protection fund. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you now talked about suspending the no premium, no cover for this period.
Come again?
No, I said I hear you very well. You said that this is a period to look at innovations as policyholders protection fund, and also the no premium, no cover suspension for this period to ramp up and get more people in the bracket.
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely.
I mean, it's a season of innovation. So what are those challenges you are seeing in the industry at this point and opportunities? Because already you've shown us two in terms of innovative ways to approach it. What additional opportunities do we see for the insurance industry in this pandemic? Because risk, crisis, these are the opportunities for insurance industries to really help and assist.
Yeah, it's a very difficult time for all businesses, and insurance is not left out of it. Everyone is exposed. However, I do think that the opportunities for insurance are quite huge. And if the insurance industry can see what I see, I do believe that the insurance industry can become even more attractive at this time and after this time. Because the challenges that the insurance industry has at this time are challenges that have always been there. The challenges are in the areas of communication, they are in the areas of claims, like we have mentioned earlier, and they are indeed in the areas where the customers have to talk about their experiences. So when you look at it, you want to ask the question, why have these challenges been there over the years? Communication, for example, is a challenge that the industry has lived with. I tell you, when the markets burn, when you have fire incidents in the market, and when you have riots and damages, insurance comes to the minds of people, and people are kind of expecting to hear what insurance will say, and it never happens. When I say never happens, it never happens, And so the question is why? The only reason that I can, find in all of it is because the insurance industry doesn't know how to communicate. Because, if you knew how to communicate, there's no reason why you will not seize such moments to communicate with the public. So, the insurance industry needs help when it comes to communication. It is for the same reason of not being able to communicate effectively that selling is also not happening effectively. That's the same reason why claims issues are also mismanaged, because everything rises and falls on communication, in my own view. And when you look at the issue of claims, which is the other challenge that the industry has, you just find out that the industry does not make adequate reserves. You cannot pay claims without making reserves, and that is what the regulator, in my own view, will constantly look out for. It's not when a company has been unable to pay claims that we will now look at the issues with the customer. From the records, what kind of reserves are companies making for claims? There are lots of companies that don't make reserve for claims. And when you don't make reserve for claims, you cannot pay claims when they arise. The other issue that comes as a challenge to the industry is that of connecting with other economic actors. You find out that events happen, ceremonies are happening around government and the private sector. You hardly see insurance leaders involved, and to my mind, the industry likes to be with itself. When the industry is doing an event, you see everyone there, but when you have an event that is on the economy, somehow they are kind of not there. So I'm thinking, could this challenge be part of fear of being embarrassed by people who have claims and other issues? So sometimes it's difficult to explain, but these are the challenges that the industry has. So I am just hoping that the industry is able to engage people who are experts in these areas, to work with them so that we can hopefully, assess the opportunities. And when we talk about opportunities, for me, every time we hear social investment program, fiscal stimulus package, COVID-19 fund for MSMEs and all of that, for me, these are simply calling insurance other names. That's how I see it. And I think through innovative collaborations, we are able to, we'll be able to see a lot more happen around agribusiness, renewable energy. These are areas where insurance is needed, And also insurance should look at having strategic partnership. Bank assurance is not working because the relationship between banks and insurance companies is not really happening the way it should be, And then we are talking about fintech. How about insurtech? Those are the things that we need to do to address the opportunities that we see in front of us. The health sector in particular is going to become the place to go, after COVID-19. And so a lot of insurance companies are going to have to prepare for the opportunities in that area. And essentially it falls in respect to life insurance, health insurance itself, travel insurance, and all of that. So these are opportunities, and then we have to start talking about them now. Otherwise, people will not be able to connect with them when you need them to pay for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ekerete. Mr. Bosun, you've heard. I mean, Mr. Ekerete is an expert. He's showing
He's an industry expert.
I think these are one of the industry experts you need to engage more on issues in insurance.
I agree with you.
He's talked about communication,
Yes.
for effective communication in the industry. He's talked about the integration of insurance into economic strategy and planning. He's also talked about the need to be innovative in short-tech technology. We also look at the opportunities in industries like the healthcare, where we are seeing the current pandemic issues. Do you have some additions or questions?
I agree with him totally. And first, to start from the very top, I agree with you that the recapitalization deadline should just be closed. The window should be closed once and for all by NICOM. NICOM should be bold enough to close the door. And I think NICOM should start to behave and act like a regulator, like the central bank, as it were, or like the SEC when it comes to industry regulation. You can't shift this insurance sector regulation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So we just need to have that closure. And I agree with you, we can have a tier-based industry ranking or whatever moving forward. Because again, some companies have gone to the market, they've done special placements, they've talked to new investors, some have done rights, some have done all manner of things. So you can't tell them to throw those things in the dustbin, those processes in the dustbin, they cost money. To arrange those special meetings, EGMs, you have to publish documents, you have to engage consultants and all of that. You can't throw all that away all over again and say, well, let us all push it again onto whatever. So the insurance companies, those who have breasted the tape, as it were, will not feel good. So I think the NICOM should just once and for all draw the line in the sand. Say December 2020, whether it is COVID-19, whatever, stick to that deadline, and let's just move on from there. And now start to prepare the post 2020 December deadline framework. And that's what I think the NICOM should be working on right now. What do we do to engage? That is what the NICOM, I think, should be doing. So I agree with you on that. On the issue of policy protection fund, that is one very great idea. It will also help perhaps draw more folks into the insurance sector if they know that they will be able to get some succor while paperwork, whatever is being done. Then the regulator also can begin to work out the numbers with the insurance firms. And I go back again, NICOM need to start acting like the central bank. And with due respect to NICOM and those who work in there and all of that, they need to start thinking outside the box and think like a financial services sector regulator. That is how the central bank thinks. Okay? Because, look, the difference between banks and insurance is not so.
Look at US,
they're like twins. They're cousins. The insurance and banks are like cousins. What do? I pay my claims. It's just the way I make deposits in a bank. There's an instant, whatever I draw, whatever it is, they invest the money. It's just like banking services. So I don't know why NICOM shouldn't have such a handshake with the sector and look into the playbook of the central bank and act in a similar manner for the sake of the insurance sector. So there are a lot of creative ideas, innovations that have been brought. For example, this policy protection fund could be something within whatever department of NICOM that is created. Central Bank has gone out to create 1 or 2 agencies like NASA and others to help its engagement with the broader economy and insurance sector. I haven't seen anything from NICOM in many, many years. This is the time for NICOM to rebirth itself as a regulator in the industry. No cover, no payment. I agree with you. We need to let
it for now.
Yes, suspend it for now and see how we go. I don't know how insurance companies will build reserves when the market is small and the size of the industry. I just hope that somehow we find that multivitamin that the insurance sector needs to become a little bit a front player and more responsive in part of the mechanism of economic growth like we have the banks. 99.99%, like you said, in economic summits and what have you, you hardly find insurance folks attending. They hardly, if ever they make comments, the NIA and the rest just do their own annual meetings and what have you, and that is all, a few conferences of their own here and there. But when you're talking about maybe the Economic Summit Group, or you have a bigger whatever, the banks hardly, sorry, the insurance hardly make statements, led by even the regulator. So folks tend to forget insurance. Forget insurance. Again, this entire COVID-19 is going to be about insurance. Someone is underwriting. The central bank is underwriting. Yeah. Since this COVID pandemic started, I haven't heard a single word from NICOM. Maybe I missed it in the news. I'm sure, maybe. But I haven't heard a single word from NICOM. I've heard from central bank, leading from the front. I've heard statement from NDIC. I've heard from the Securities and Exchange Commission. I haven't heard from NICOM. And this is amazing because you're talking about health insurance. No, seriously speaking, because you're talking about insurance for healthcare workers.
At this time.
At this point in time. Yeah. We're talking about how should companies also look at insurance, health insurance, than they previously did, because now the game has changed with this global pandemic. So if your health insurance package for your company as a business or an enterprise was at 10 or 20 or 30%, now you think of raising it, because health is wealth. Yes. Now, if your staff or some of your workers will have to work remotely moving forward, insurance still come into play. So it's a whole game. But right now, I haven't heard a word from NICOM whatsoever.
Very important that
today's Friday, maybe by Monday we'll hear from them. But I think it's time for NICOM to step up to the plate.
Yes.
That's a big story for me.
So, let me try.
I can hear you. You can go on, Mr.
Okay, so let me try and clarify one or two things. Okay, let's say the banks and insurance have a father, and the father is the federal government, and the insurance is crying. Bank is being fed for one reason or the other. Let me explain some things to you. The central report to the press, it just reports to the national. It does not have the functionality information made by the president. So sometimes it's weakened by the fact that, and that's part of the challenge. You are handling a big issue like capitalization, and you don't have the full team to work with. So sometimes, we expect something from where something has not been put. I mean, you understand?
Yeah.
So it's not to give an excuse, but it's just to tell you what the situation is. And I remember that with banking, at some point, you had an outsider who came into banking from the regulatory angle, and did a fantastic job of changing their thinking. Making them believe globally that possibilities are there, let's go and chase them. But in insurance, it's not like that. The guy who is there is also hoping that he will go back to his business of insurance someday. So sometimes it's difficult to offend his colleagues. So this whole thing is not just what you expect to see from NICOM, but it's the environment in which NICOM is operating. I'm not giving excuses for them. I'm one of the people that expect a lot from NICOM, and I say it all the time. But these are just the situation that they found themselves. I have seen other regulatory bodies in other countries, Uganda, Kenya, Ghana,
South Africa,
doing a fantastic job. And when they want to communicate, they communicate in clear terms. Don't even go to South Africa, because I have a problem with comparing Nigerian insurance industry to South Africa.
Okay, we won't go there.
The penetration in South Africa is 38%. They didn't just wake up and get there.
No, yeah.
Our own is somewhere around 0.3%.
We're not up to 1%
So it's a less than 1% industry. Health insurance is less than 1%. Insurance is less than 1%. And one thing I need to clarify also, Bosin. When we talk about health insurance, do you know that a lot of the are doing health insurance are actually supposed to do health insurance. But when you talk about health insurance, even to some leaders in the insurance sector, as we know the insurance sector, they tell you that it's NHIS. They refer you to NHIS and HMO. And I found that very amazing, because there's a leading insurance company today that makes a lot more money from health than motor and life business. And I'm happy that they are active in this COVID-19 season. So health insurance is something that every insurance company should be looking at doing. So after COVID-19 or because of this time, people will sit down and come up with real serious health insurance products. Insurance companies are selling those products. They will do better than the HMOs that are just getting money from government and looking for how to not give the hospitals money to have people taking care.
A quick one, sir. Here, well said, Otto.
Yeah.
We're living in an interesting time, and some of the focus of the central bank, and I think also from the government at the center moving forward, is to ramp up on agro-industrialization and infrastructure. So I want to know from you, we want to know from you, where is the place of insurance here? This administration has been spending so rapidly as much as they can get as the money is available in infrastructure, trying to stimulate SMEs, trying to stimulate MSMEs along the corridors of creative industry, agro-industry, agriculture, farming. Now we're talking about logistics and all of that. Where is the place of insurance here? Because I think as much as you now have more both public and private sector funding and financing into all of this, the insurance sector should have a bigger size of the pie. Do you see these various measures by the monetary policy and the fiscal authorities as a way to grow the size, this very minute size of insurance business in Nigeria? Do you think your folks, the folks within your industry, as you as a professional, are ready to take? Do they have what it takes?
Yeah. Mr. Ekerete, did you hear the question?
Okay, I head up to the point where he mentioned infrastructure and, MSMEs. What's the place of insurance? Is that the question?
Yes.
I'll tell you, the place of insurance is right at the top of these discussions, because we are talking about investments that come with risk. And so how are the risks related to these investments, expenditures going to be mitigated? And insurance is one of the ways that, one of the tested ways that this can be done. Do you know that we have infrastructure insurance, as a package, as a product? And we also have insurance for small businesses. I'm happy that recently the central bank spoke about the need for what we call key man insurance for the small business loans that they are giving. Because the issue is always that if the man who has, or woman who is running his business, is unable to pay back the loan on account of illness or death, indeed, we have a lot of loans that have not been paid on account of that. So what should normally happen is that the moment the guy is getting a loan, getting insurance to cover what may happen. Same thing with infrastructure. In the course of investing and building all sorts of infrastructure across the country, the insurance should follow it. And I know that a lot of the construction companies, a lot of the discussions when it has to do with contractors involves insurance. But the real issue is that these insurances, a lot of the time, do not get done. And that's why when something goes wrong, either in the course of the work or after the work has been done, let's say a bridge has been built and the bridge collapses, government has to spend money again to build it because there was no insurance. But these things are supposed to be right at the top of it. Now, but what we find a lot of the time is that, the moment the guy is getting a loan, getting insurance to cover what may happen, same thing with infrastructure. The insurance should follow it. And I know that a lot of the construction companies, a lot of the discussions when it has to do with contractors involves insurance. But the real issue is that
Mr. Keze, can you hear me? Okay.
You cannot do insurance that government has said by law ought to be done, because whatever deal that they put in front of him is not favorable. So come on, if we have to do insurance and the way all of us discuss the expectation for insurance, then we must go to the issue of value and say, what value are we getting from doing insurance? So it is the place of the insurance industry leaders also to present this. And that's why I recently proposed that, hey, if Nigeria is doing another 10-year national development plan, insurance has to be in that plan. We can't be spending money and losing money. We can't take one step forward and 10 steps backward. Because we just don't understand insurance, or when we say we don't want to do it, we say we don't understand it. So that's what I see a lot of the time. Clearly, insurance is in the thick of those discussions, and should be in the thick of those discussions. Because whenever you are doing an investment and you want to secure it, insurance is one of the ways to secure it.
All right, Mr. Ekerete, thank you very much for your incisive contributions. We just have some comments coming in. First comment for this is asking about health insurance, and considering the fact that some hospitals, like in Lagos, that were announced by the government that they have exposure to COVID-19, if their hospitals are affected, what do they do in that regard? Do they take options of using another hospital, and how can that process be achieved? That's the first question considering health insurance.
Okay. So do I take that, or do I wait for another question? Maybe I should just...
Okay, just take this up, then, yeah.
The simple thing for people... Okay, so the simple thing for people to do is your HMO would actually close by. So there's always the point of call, the point that you need to put that call. So what some people should do is to call the providers, and they will give them alternative hospitals to go to at this time.
Okay, so you call your HMO and they will give you alternative hospitals still in their coverage.
Yes.
Yes. And then the next comment is about insurance. I mean, this period of COVID-19 lockdown, how can insurance companies be of immense benefit to MSMEs using the platforms, digital platforms? How can that be achieved? Mr. Geze, can you hear me? We hope to get him back online, because it's getting very interesting, the comments and the reactions. Mm-hmm. But you heard what he said about the economic plan. This next plan that is coming up. We're looking at how they can integrate insurance. Okay, he's back. So, Mr. Geze, can you hear me now?
The insurance companies are still providing services to their customers online.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, go on.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go on. You can go on.
Okay. So, I'm saying that as we speak now, our insurance companies, insurance is something that you get even when you don't need it. You just get it and hold it until something happens. So a lot of people who are expecting things from insurance now, in my own view, ought to be people who are insurance customers, policy holders. If you're not holding a policy of any insurance company right now, and you expect insurance to do something for you, that insurance company will have to, have a large heart, like the insurance companies in Kenya that will come out and pay rioters that they will not insure. It's beautiful to see those things, but clearly, insurance also, for your information, I did say recently that anybody who has a life policy with an insurance company, and endowment policies particularly, can approach that insurance company for loan at this time. But the key issue is that you must be the policyholder of an insurance company to enjoy it right now. And so if you aren't, this may just be a good time to also spend some money to buy a policy.
Yeah. So, Mr. Ekerete, let's look at the outlook. I believe this conversation will still continue because we are getting interesting reactions. Let's look at the outlook for the insurance industry post-COVID-19. You've said some very remarkable things, particularly the fact that the next round of economic plans of this government should integrate insurance. It's very important. You've rightly said that our penetration is below 1%, which is not good. A recent report by Coronation Research talked about the need for our insurance industry to move from the lagoon to the ocean. I mean, move to that opportunities. Yeah. And they highlighted opportunities like technology and even micro-insurance. So what are you looking at too, from your part, your expertise in terms of the future post-COVID-19?
Okay, so for me, one of the things that must happen post-COVID-19 is that the regulator and the insurance industry operators must work to promote the industry, not to protect the industry. There is too much work being done to protect the industry. Let's promote the industry. And along with that comes the issue of the insurance laws that are going through the process of amendment. My fear is that even if we have a new insurance law today, it might not cover things like Intech and Insurtech. And so we have to go in that direction. Let's clear the issues of insurance companies that are under NICOM management. There's no need to drag companies that have been, have failed, so to say, because they are failed customers. And so let's put those companies all together and make them one big insurance company and see how we can then have those customers taken care of. Once you have cleared this, we have to talk about migrating to digital platforms. We have to talk about focusing on customer protection. We have to also talk about access to reliable data. Let me tell you, 25 million, or I think 27 million BVN, 14 million national identity card number, 89 million voters registered. These are numbers that insurance can collaborate and work with and make sure that people get, small bits of insurance. And that's where we have micro insurance and Takaful coming in as game changers. Now, let me tell you, Takaful is an insurance that people don't know much about. The moment you mention Takaful, people will say it's Islamic insurance and they move away from it. But Takaful is the only type of insurance that gives back, to what they call contributors, not policyholders. The customers get something back. I think it's something that people have been asking for. But it is here now, and instead of taking it, you say it's Islamic. So I find it challenging when people say culture and religion are the issues. So going forward, we have to understand that it is not culture and religion that is the issue. It's ignorance and it's unbelief that's the issue, in my own view. And we also have to look at, in this time, what are we going to do for farmers? Because COVID-19 is here. We are able to buy food today because they were harvesting. This is planting season. So deliberately, there are insurance companies that are permitted to do agri insurance. I expect a lot of engagement between insurance companies, those insurance companies, and the farmers at this time, so that they can feel a bit more secure to do what they are doing and give us produce. The other thing that I'm happy to, like I said, is today we are talking telemedicine, which is good, and we have to take it from there. There's a lot that is going to happen in the health insurance sector, and like I pointed out, please, the conventional insurance companies that you see today are also able to offer health insurance. It's not only HMOs that can handle health insurance. So government must do what government must do, which is, when there is a law in place, please let government be the first to respect the law. I will speak about an issue that the insurance industry is not speaking about. The group life for federal civil servants For 3 years now, it has not been done. And this is not a good sign. It's not a good sign. And then when you have people who have worked for government for over 35 years or 30 years, they lost their lives, families have to go from one insurance company to look for claims, and they tell them that premium was not paid. It's really, really sad. So these are things that must happen. Lastly, I know that a lot of what we have seen as opportunities for insurance is going to challenge the human capital of the insurance industry. Like we said, you can't give what you don't have. So there's a need for the insurance sector that is how I see going forward.
Well, Mr. Ekerete Ola Gam-Ikon, you've really made this very lively, interactive, and very incisive about the insurance industry. We've come to know new things, interesting things that lies ahead for the industry. So, it's really remarkable, Mr. Bolson.
He knows the industry like the back of his hand.
An expert. That's why we've really enjoyed the session. So that has been a very interesting conversation today on COVID-19 pandemic. I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Ekerete Ola Gam-Ikon, management consultant, specialization in insurance and entrepreneurship. Thank you very much for your insightful contributions today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It's good to have you on the program.
I still have you here for 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
And so that will be all for this segment, Economic and Politics Show, where we discussed the COVID-19 pandemic and implications for the insurance industry. Join us by 10 a.m. as we continue the conversation, the market review, looking at the healthcare industry.